Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
And I'm Lynn, your co-host.
Let's gear for sea and get underway. Do you need a secret weapon in your marketing?
Our next guest, Meredith Allen, travels the world talking about secret weapons for it factor.
Meredith Allen has produced and hosted shows on NBC, CBS, Fox, ABC, and CNN HLN.
Her passion is helping clients share their stories and inspiring her live audiences to better leadership.
Meredith joins us today from Los Angeles, where she is committed to sharing what she calls her it factor with you all today.
So greetings, Meredith Allen. Welcome to our podcast. Say hi to our audience.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So I hear you're a Valley girl.
Like totally. Oh my gosh. No, I promise I don't talk like that all the time.
Yeah. So she's calling in from the Valley, which is north of the metro area, but it's a beautiful place always, and maybe get a little hot, but I guess the weather's pretty nice there today.
It's amazing. Yes, it's breezy and 70s and sunny, so I can't complain.
Always California. Well, thanks for connecting in today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So Meredith, you've had your company for nearly a decade. It's very impressive. What are some of the greatest mistakes you have made?
Well, thank you for asking. It's so funny. As a professional public speaker, I always survey my audiences, and they always say their favorite part of my entire hour presentation is when I share my mistakes. So it's an honor to share some of my big ones with you today, and I always find that the greatest lessons come out of those mistakes. So when I make mistakes now, I say thank you and try not to let them bring me down. But you know, through the years, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made when I started out is I didn't accept help, seek help. I kind of lone wolfed it for a very long time, which resulted in a lot of burnout. And looking back, a lot of unnecessary self-imposed stress. And I don't know if you two can relate, but it's very easy to just say, I can do that, so I will, and I can do that, so I will. And then before you know it, you know, you're just running full speed ahead. And you can crash and burn, and I've done that on multiple occasions.
You know, you bring up kind of like what's the biggest challenge entrepreneurs seem to have, and it's just piling everything on and not knowing when to delegate, not knowing, you know, when to bring in a contractor, kind of being penny wise and pound foolish, where you really think you're saving money by doing something that's not in your core skill sets instead of bringing somebody in, paying a little bit more and leveraging that effort. But yeah, it sounds like you've stumbled on that one too, like we have.
Many times throughout the years. And then the other thing is, I would say, not being afraid to switch things up. So when you see you're going down a rabbit hole, and again, this happens all the time, where the profit might not be there, but you're like, oh, I love doing this part of the business. Or if you see that something is taking 10 times more than what you bid, it's okay to step up and say, you know what, I realize we had a bid on this. This is turning out to be bigger. Let's renegotiate. Because again, a lot of those things, if you don't nip them in the bud, will not only drain you financially, but emotionally. In both cases, you know, why are you in business but not to enjoy yourself and serve? And you can't do that if you're not at your best.
I thought you were in business to work 20-hour work days every day. I don't know.
I've been there.
I forgot to mention, well, Sherilyn had a little computer problem, and so she's connecting in on her phone. And I'm holding that and piping that in. So thanks for making that work, Sherilyn.
Yeah, no problem. Of course.
Marilyn, let's dive right into the core of your message. What is the it factor?
Well, thank you. I think a lot of people these days want to move into the status of being an expert in their industry. And a lot of people turn to me for advice in marketing and media. And I say, what you need to figure out is, what do you stand for? What is your greatest passion? And then not just having that and knowing it, but leaning full into it and being willing to be vulnerable and say, you know, for me, I love lifting people into their excellence. So that's why I coach and lead workshops, and I almost always say yes to lovely opportunities like this where I can share that joy with others. But at the end of the day, you've got to step it up and play big and full out.
Well, there are a lot of elements in marketing. Meredith, what are the critical success factors for new or small business owners to consider for success in marketing?
There are a lot of critical success factors in marketing, but being clear, as I was starting to say, on your messaging and what you want, and being willing to be vulnerable. So the it factor is literally opening up to what your gifts are and being willing to be vulnerable about that and share it and not hide behind what you think the front is or the voice. Like, I have a great story where I was an anchor woman, and in my early days in a big city, I would get on the air and I would talk like this, and I would say, it's freezing outside in 72. And I'll never forget my cameraman, when I went off the air after a live hit doing like 20 of these in a storm, I said to him, how am I doing? He goes, man, I like you so much more when you're off the air. And I was like, what? But it was like the best thing he could have said, because I wasn't keeping it real. The it factor is being willing to be messy, sloppy, and true to you. So that's also the critical success factor in marketing. Share your stories, share your mistakes, and people will not only like you, they'll trust you and want to work with you. It's a natural, wonderful.
It's like what you're naturally good at, the way you are. That's the best way to be. If you try to, inflate it somehow, or you're focusing too much, or, talking a little hyperventilated, it's not coming out the real you. And it sounds, sometimes you don't realize that. You're lucky to have somebody pull you aside, or say I've noticed I'll look at a video and I'll say, well, am I really talking like that? Sometimes you can see it that way. But yeah, I guess a lesson learned, I'd say there is always look for feedback for the people you're working with.
Absolutely. And people can tell a fake or somebody who's putting on a front in a minute. And that's not how you get rebooked or asked to return to big events or more opportunities. They want somebody who is real, relatable, like I said, messy, because gone are the days where you're going to arrive on a show and a hairstylist and a makeup artist. People always ask me, what is it like to work on all these big networks and all these stations? And I say, if you're looking for glamour, get out of it. You have a false perception. Really good people and great stories are what bring me into this industry.
Yeah, we're all freelancing. You got to just take the opportunity where it's at and make it work. Well, let's talk about upping ourselves into superpowers. You believe everyone has superpowers. If that's true, how do you discover, what these superpowers are for you?
Well, thank you for asking. This is a great passion of mine. Sometimes when I give big talks just for fun, I ask people who their favorite superhero is. And there are some incriminating photos of me dressed up full tilt as Wonder Woman. But that's not the kind of superhero I'm talking about. The powers are when you really step into not only your passion, but something that delivers. What is your deliverable gift? So, it took a long time, for instance, for me to figure out I love sharing good stories. Like, it's an honor to be speaking to you and sharing mine. And I can't wait to have you guys someday on the Meredith Show and share yours, because the magic happens when you transfer your passion and open it up to the world. So as far as discovering your superpowers, take a good look at your life and what brings you the greatest joy. But most importantly, what is it that you do for others that lifts them, that makes them even laugh? Like my friend Dawn is an amazing comedian. Her superpower is she is, I was going to curse, extremely funny. We don't want to do that. Okay. I don't know who's watching. So, really owning and tapping into and taking a minute to check in with yourself and say, you know what, like, what is the universe delivering? What do people always say I'm really helpful with? And then taking a close look about how you could give that gift more.
So a superpower is the gift you have, and that people will find interesting, and that everybody has something. And then I guess, you could take that one step further as a business owner and figure out how do you apply it to your marketing and in growing your business.
Absolutely, because that's the thing. In the sea of sameness, that's the worst thing in marketing. I mean, there's always going to be somebody doing what you're doing. But what is it that separates you? What is it, your gift, your perspective, or your story, or even your past that you bring to the company that no other person in the world has? And there's always a differentiator if you take a hard look.
Your swim lane. What's your swim lane?
Right, exactly. And you can cross over into other lanes, but you eventually want to swim back to what you're great at, because that's where the power is in sharing and lifting others.
Great. Well, we all stumbled during the startup phase. Meredith, what advice do you wish someone gave you when you first started out?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, one of the biggest mistakes, I don't know about you guys, that I made is I took every client that came my way. And there came a point where I recognized some of these people I didn't even like. Like, it didn't matter how much they paid. So I would say, don't be afraid to have a clear sense of what your ideal client or colleague or customer looks like, and be true to that. Because anytime I've swayed the line, like, I'll even admit, just this past year, I parted ways with a 6-figure opportunity. But I started to recognize that we were not on the same page. The integrity of that individual and company was nowhere near my personal integrity. So no matter what the price tag, we pay a price when we stay out of alignment. So that would be the first big thing I would say. I took so many clients that I wish, not that I don't want to help a lot of people, but, I had the strength to stand in my power and say, that's not for me. I don't agree with that, And furthermore, maybe knowing your limits. So we talked a little bit about burning out. I had this naive, really great surge when I opened up my marketing company with really helping and delivering to clients. But I took on so many big contracts and so much at once, again, without a lot of help, that it was almost insanity. Like, I thought just because things went well with the first, second, and third project, why not take on 4 more? Well, you might want to think about a realistic growth plan. Not everybody needs to be stratostrop. You don't have to push yourself beyond normal limits just because success is there. So don't be deceived by success. Celebrate your wins. Stay humble. That's a big piece of advice I like to give.
So it sounds like, at some point you had to fire some clients.
Exactly. And you know what? Now it's a joy. Like,
that's what I said. That's what I found. One time I even wrote like an article or something, about, firing. It's okay to fire a client. I tell you, it felt good. You don't realize how negative and corrosive some clients can be. And they're like, what do you mean? You tell me, I thought you needed business. Well, I do. They almost get offended. But in some cases, you've got to do that. And then your other clients you have that you like working with, they'll get that much better service from you.
That, and you also make room for the right people to come into your life and your work and your business. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I close a big door, even that scary, hairy door recently of that large partnership I had, it was terrifying at the moment thinking about dropping that level of money. I'm not going to minimize it, but I can't even believe I'm sitting here talking to you. I was amazed and honored that you booked me. I'm going to be on the cover of a magazine this month, which I never saw coming for CEOs. And I've just been booked to be a keynote in Bali. So all of those opportunities wouldn't have been possible if I had been anchored in with that client still. So it's just beautiful how the universe works in your favor sometimes.
Yeah, just make the right decision and it starts to fall into place. Well, let's look back a little bit. You worked with Barbara Walters and ABC Sports while still in college. Meredith, what advice on goal setting can you offer that helped you to achieve such great things at such an early age?
Well, thank you for saying that. It's very interesting because I've always loved public speaking, and my passion, if I have to look back, probably stemmed from an assembly in high school where this speaker, I wish I could remember his name to write a passionate thank you note or even send a gift, because he said that less than 1% of the world writes out and sets goals. So if you set some goals for yourself, you are 99% ahead of the rest of the world. And this concept just inspired me to limitless accomplishment. I always wanted to work with Barbara Walters. Not only was I able to do that, I was the first intern in history to work on Barbara Walters' show now called The View. And I literally wrote a list, guys, of things I wanted to achieve before 30 and checked off everything on the list to the point where it was almost scary. And I had to redo my lists. So I challenge everybody at home to even just pick 3 things and just put those goals in front of yourself. And it's like magic. I promise you, the momentum and the good fortune that you have when you're clear and focused on those goals.
So kind of like by writing it down, they always say, if it doesn't write, it doesn't work. But by writing it down, maybe you subconsciously keep yourself focused on things throughout the day with that goal in the back of your mind, and you kind of keep your efforts, focused on those things that are important by not getting distracted by what's urgent, which is what hits us every day as small business owners.
Yes, and I have to tell, this is another really powerful fact for your listeners and viewers, is that 90% of your decisions in life are actually governed by the subconscious. So you are literally programming yourself. I literally teach this in some of my workshops. If you put it in front of yourself, it is ingrained in your being, because only 10% of your decisions, believe it or not, are conscious decisions. So it's like you're giving yourself this priceless, easy gift. It's almost like, when wouldn't you set those goals and put them before you every day? Lots of power in that, right?
Meredith, what is your greatest piece of advice for an entrepreneur to get to the next level in marketing and business?
That's a great question, and I do receive that quite a bit. I think being clear on your messaging, and being crystal clear on who you not just get to work with, but you want to work with. So being clear on your mission, your messaging across all of your platforms. A big pet peeve is like, if your home business, your YouTube shouldn't be like Fred said. You want to make sure that your website, your business cards, your signage, everything that you present is coherent, because there's so much power. And the other thing I like to explain is that a confused person doesn't buy. A confused mind will not make a purchase. So the more powerfully clear you are in your declarations of how you serve, what you do, can raise your revenue and expand your business exponentially. So I think that's a great way to keep focused.
You can't emphasize that point enough, because there's just so much information and clutter out there. Whenever I'm giving advice, say to somebody who wants to advertise, I take a look at their website, and it's like 99 out of 100. I say, chop out 90% of the content there. It's just like, it's just people. I say sometimes, a good rule of thumb is they're not going to read past the 2 sentences of what you're saying. And you've got to communicate clearly, and then lead people kind of down funnels to where you want them to go, and emphasize that point you made, where it all has to work together. I mean, they're looking at you on Instagram, on Facebook, on your website, and, all through other social media channels. And it all has to have a coherent look. And I like that point you made about, if it's not, they get confused, and you won't buy if you're confused.
Never. If you can't figure out what it is that you're looking at to purchase, how could you make the buy? It's just a hard sell, and it doesn't work.
Well, Meredith, it's been a great discussion on releasing your it factor. Do you have any final points you would like to share with our audience?
Yes, that it's never too late to be who you might have been. It's one of my favorite quotes, and the it factor really is stepping into giving yourself permission to be true to you, to those that you serve, and being vulnerable and honest and open will win and influence friends all day, every day. So, my big thing is, you or somebody has an amazing story. Whatever you do, don't keep it to yourself, because that, my friends, is the it factor.
Meredith Allen, thank you for being such a wonderful guest on the Home Business Podcast.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you both. Thank you so much for having me.
I feel like you've released my it factor.
Just wait, and whenever you think that, there's always more, and I look forward to seeing it with you both. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. To learn more about Meredith Allen and what her it factor can do for you, please visit themeredithshow.com or our podcast website for more information on guests.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising, subscribe to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying, anchors away.
We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
make it a great home-based biz day.